Hey, brilliant people. So today I have another intuitive hack for you. I think we're up to number 7 or something. Anyway, so this intuitive hack is about impulses. Now, I've talked in other videos about trust, and that's really what it takes. Because for a lot of people, their intuition will just come as an impulse. Story about a client. It's a pretty simple story. He was driving to work one day and he suddenly had this really, just this impulse to get off the highway. So he got off the highway, drove via the back roads, and he got to work on time. But when he got to work, he learned that, there'd been a bit of a pile up on the highway and he would have been about an hour late to work. And, the work that he does, it's very time dependent. Like, if he doesn't get there on time, then things don't happen. So it's important for him to be on time to his work. But that impulse, the fact that he had that impulse and he didn't, because if he'd stopped, because the impulse was, turn left here, get off the highway. He had that impulse as he was coming up to that left turn. Now, if he'd hesitated, he would have been past it and then he wouldn't have had another opportunity to turn off the highway before he got into all the accident traffic. So he had to trust that impulse to react immediately. But a lot of the times we might get that impulse and then we may not act on it. I've got a terrible story about that. I was actually in another city here in Australia. I was working there at the time. My brothers had come and were visiting. We'd all gone out to dinner. And anyway, I was driving home. And there was this particular way that I like to drive home, because it sort of skirted around the edge of some parklands. And I just had this impulse that I should actually drive home a different way. But, I'd had a drink. I wasn't over the limit or anything. But I'd had a drink, enough to ignore my impulse. Yeah, and at one point, as we came around the corner, there were these guys on the side of on this little sort of corner park, and they had this guy down on the ground, and they were kicking the. I probably can't say that word. They were kicking the stuffing out of him. It wasn't good, and these guys, they were. They were built, they were islanders, so they were big guys. And my brothers, they're not terribly short, but they're weedy white boys, We come from a nerd family. But my brothers, they said, stop the car. So I stopped the car and I was just sitting behind the wheel. And, when they got out, actually, a guy jumped onto the bottom of my car. That was a bit scary, but, obviously by that time, I just tuned into my intuition completely. And because, it's like this was a nasty situation. Anyway, a guy jumped on the bottom of my car. I don't know how I knew to do it, but I just put the car immediately into reverse, hit the accelerator. The guy fell off the front. That kind of froze everything. I was just sitting there kind of praying that, that for these guys not to start beating my brothers up, because I didn't want to use the car to drive through these guys, but I knew that, Anyway, fortunately, the guy who was on the ground had the sense to get to his feet and take off, at which point there was no point in any of this showdown. So my brothers got back in the car. But I guess it was a gang, the leader of the gang, he was yelling about, get back in the car or get out of here or whatever he was saying. Anyway, as we took off, he punched the window of my car and he shattered the glass. Oh my God. Like, I'm so glad he didn't actually punch either of my brothers. Anyway, yeah. So not listening to my impulse that particular evening, it cost me $75 to have that window replaced. I have no idea what happened to the guy. or what was going down. But anyway, the moral of the story is it's really good to listen to your impulses for all sorts of reasons. But in order to do that, you have to really sort of trust your impulses. Now, obviously, I trust mine a lot more these days. But one of the things that really helps is, and so this is the actual hack, is that when you actually do have an intuition that works, so you turn off the highway and you get to work on time, or you decide to do something, you've been looking for something and you get an impulse to go to a particular place, and there it is. Whatever is your intuition, you have a feeling to ring a family member, and they've been trying to get hold of you for some reason. So whenever you have an accurate intuition like that, stop and really focus on your internals. Focus on that sense of alignment, because when you actually have a really clear impulse, you'll find, or an intuition that is really clear, you'll find that every single part of you is in alignment with that intuition. And so that sense of internal alignment is really important, because when you get an impulse that comes with that sense of internal alignment, listen to it, act on it. Because when you know what that internal alignment is, then you'll be able to not just act on your impulses, but when you do act on your impulses, you'll get that positive feedback, and that internal alignment will get stronger, which will also help your intuition to get stronger. So the actual hack is when you have a successful or an accurate intuition, take a moment to really feel how you're feeling in that moment. Like when you got the impulse, when you got the intuition, like how were you feeling on the inside? And really make a conscious acknowledgement of that state, because that is your powerful intuitive state, and you want to really pay attention when it pops up. So there you are. Another intuitive hack. I hope that helps you with the development of your intuition and your living intuitively in your own life. And remember that you're brilliant.